coaster, come along for the ride, yeah. The solar coaster's rolling, it feels so right. Hop on the solar coaster, come along for the ride.
Aloha, my name is Anna Covert, and this is the Solar Coaster, the wild ride through the solar industry told by the people who are living it every day. In the hot seat with me today is Blake Gailey of Ecotrybe. Blake, let's kick this off. When did the sun first shine in your solar path?
It was 2012. I actually had to look that up a little bit ago that I started. And at that time, I was working with a company called Invictus, which was later became Solcius. So they were one of about 6 companies that were doing a pilot program for Sunrun for their third-party cells program. So they were running a pilot, and that is where I started in my solar industry. Happy to bring you up to speed, from 2012 to now, but that's where I started.
Yeah, well, how we met was when you were at SunPower, and Paul Sullivan had left, and then was in charge of vendor services. So yeah, tell us a little Cliff Notes version of your solar background.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So a Cliff Notes version, and it's fun to think back on where things have come personally and for the industry since 2012 when I started. So that was a pilot program through Sunrun that I was describing. So there's Varengo was another group I remember was one of those. I believe it was 6 and a couple others. But from there, I went to a call center that was selling Sunrun prepaid leases over the phone and using a second mortgage product to finance out the Sunrun prepaid lease. And SunEdison was a vendor of this product that I was just describing. And so this was a mortgage company that had the product. It was called W.J. Bradley Energy, and W.J. Bradley was the mortgage company. They unfortunately closed shop. And at that point, I said, I want to work for SunEdison. They were one of the largest, if not the largest energy, or at least renewable company. And so I went to SunEdison. And at the time, it was interesting. I reached out to their VP of sales. He says, we don't have a job, but why don't you present us something you would do? So I presented a third-party sales channel to them, and they said, great. So I built SunEdison's, we called it third-party sales. Unfortunately, as SunEdison, which at the time was a $10 billion company, when they went bankrupt, SunPower said, come over here and build our sales channel. So that channel that you were referencing where we had met during Paul Sullivan times, SunPower called it their non-installing dealer channel. So from a pilot in New York with two different groups in New York to what that division came, it was nearly 7 years. Just under 7 years that I spent there at SunPower, and truly cherish that time there.
Yeah. And then they went bankrupt, but you got out before that.
So I got out before that. So I had heard of same person I referenced at SunEdison, that same VP that I told you about. He had moved on, and at that time, I had reached out to him, and he was at Complete Solar,
right? And
he had said, "Hey, Complete Solar is going to buy
Solaria.
Solaria, thank you. I was going to buy Solaria and go public." And I said, I'd love to, be a part of something and learn something new. So I went over to Complete Solar. They did buy Solaria. They did go public, and very, very turbulent time. And then SunPower went bankrupt. And so being at Complete Solar, 3 divisions, the non-installing dealer division, the new homes division, and Blue Raven were purchased. And so at that time, I got the chance to run sales for the new homes division. So that's the home builders. So it was about 10 months that I was working on that new homes division, and lots of changes. I was affected along with a lot of other people during some of that transition back last June. And from there, I said, I'm going to start my own thing.
Yeah.
So that's what Ecotribe is, which is my background. So that's been since June. I said, I'm going to take the relationships I've had since 2012 and create a little bit of a different model of supporting groups. So that's 2012 up to today, Reader's Digest version.
Wow. Well, that really does that. If that doesn't, capsulize the solar coaster, I don't know what does. Right. The ups, the downs, everything in between. So now coming off of this, really hot year of change in the industry, 2025, tax credits ended for residential. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? How are people gonna? What is your recommendation to installers for how to thrive without this tax credit?
What I'm seeing out there of how installers are looking to thrive for the future is they're diversifying. Most installers that I see are many, um, but I do feel most are calling themselves home services companies. So they're not hanging their hat only on solar as they used to do. So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And if you're saying, hey, what do you suggest? I do feel that solar installers of the past do need to diversify, and have other services that they can offer to customers that are synergistic. But that's what I'm seeing, and that is, I agree with what much of that movement is in offering other services.
Yeah, I remember when we were at the show, we were looking at that EcoFlow. Like, I think that you're 100% right, and I'm seeing the same thing with my dealers. As people are, service and maintenance is really an untapped gem. I have all these orphans that are there, and then that are continuing to grow, and being able to not just offer service for your own clients, but take on these orphans is a huge opportunity. Right, panel cleanings, just even I think just adding a single panel or things that people didn't want to do before. Remember what SunPower, it's like, you had to do a minimum system size of 3 kW. And if you didn't, you got charged. And a lot of dealers even today are saying, oh, no, we're not doing it if it's under 4 kW. Well, but there's people out there that just want a couple more panels. And, being able to kind of wrap that into a service model even, and just like some small upgrades, I'm seeing a lot of easy wins for.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I do see many groups that are going back to their customers of the past, whether it is what I would call right sizing a system, as you said, adding 2 panels, or batteries. Batteries truly are the future. And adding batteries to homes that previously were, only solar homes, which you're right. At the last time that we were, together in person, and actually still have the books that, I know you can't see them there with my background there, but still have the books you gave me there at RE Plus, as we were standing outside of, EcoFlow, which is a battery company. But I think that's a great example, um, of going back to customers and offering things like batteries.
Yeah, and I was so excited about EcoFlow in particular, just because, at the show, I mean, I have a span and I love my span, don't get me wrong. And, I've got my 2 systems, my Maxions. Now they're not, we won't call them SunPowers anymore. My 327s and my 410s. I've got the 2 Tesla Powerwall 2s, the charge point, and the span. But what I was so excited about, what you showed me with EcoFlow, was just because I think the biggest thing is, okay, sure, you have the smart panel, great. But what's next? Especially if you're in California, places where there's demand response or, time of use. How's a regular homeowner gonna manage this process? And what I saw with EcoFlow and their AI, tell us about that, what they're doing.
Yeah, so EcoFlow is an example of one of the companies that EcoTribe does partner with and represent. But EcoFlow, what you were referencing that we saw was the smart home panel, similar to Span, but it's a whole ecosystem. So I have had one of their smart home panels in my home for about a little over 2 years. It was December 2 years ago, so quite literally 2 years. And here I live in Utah, but I also have a time of use plan myself. But similarly, my smart home panel, my family doesn't even know. So it was about, well, I guess 2 hours ago exactly, my home switched over to operating off the batteries. So from 3 to 8 p.m., my home automatically runs off the batteries, but it's all controlled through that smart home panel. So I could do it through the app, or what you were asking about is the AI, which that was launched at the RE Plus, and it actually just became available just recently to regular consumers like myself. So in my app, I can now ask the app. So what some of the things you could do is, hey, it's a power outage. I want my home to last for 8 hours. It's anticipated to be an 8 hour, 8 hour outage, and then it's going to analyze. Even though you could have three different ways to run your power automatically in the app, you could just change it right through AI of talking to it. Hey, can I use my AC for enough time? I needed to run, why don't you run the AC only 1 hour, or whatever it is, you can talk through it. Or you can say, tell me, can I improve my electric bill or reduce my electric bill? Do you have any suggestions? So you can talk to it. analyze how to change your use
Yeah,
cap.
you have to wear your pants twice. You can't wear them once, right? Less
No, I like this.
whatever
Good analogy.
it might be. Yeah, no, I think that really is the future because when you can give someone the tool, but if they don't know how to use it, I mean, even when I had a power outage and I was, moving things from the must-haves to the nice-to-haves to the definitely don't needs, and that's great. But but it's not preventative. It's not, it's like you have to do it and they kind of know what you're doing. Versus, I think that's really the future of it working together with you and being smart and understanding your needs and understanding the utility changes in real time. I think that that's so exciting.
Well, I agree with you. And what I do see for the future of not just EcoFlow, but many companies, it is the holistic home. So it is, you know, having your appliances run at certain times and truly integrating not just the HVAC or not just the thermostats, but it really is integrating the different solutions and having them all talk to each other. That's what the home of the future will look like and is quickly getting to, that point. And smart home panel, like your span, I call it the brain. That's the brain of the home that communicates to the other things, right? Like your charger and, generators, other things that you can run, from the brain.
Yeah, it's true. So, on that note of building integrated design, which I know we were both excited about, I know you work with a lot of things that I was really excited about, which is like the Tesla solar roof or the GAF energized shingle. But until recently, I've seen that what are you seeing in terms of the wave? Because GAF was really, it seemed like, on the rise, but now they've closed a lot of facilities and they've fired a lot of people and only kind of open in a couple states. Like, what are you seeing? Like, is anyone else going to pick this up, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, good question. What I'm seeing specifically to like the GAF is focused on specific channels. So one of the channels I was in at SunPower um, was the new homes division. So that's a large focus specifically of GAF is, hey, home builder, here's here's a product, for the home while you're building it, build integrated solar on the roof. And here's a finance mechanism if the homeowner wants it, specific to their new homes division. So that's specifically to a GAF. That is a strategy they're employing to, be very focused on, specific channels.
I see. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else? What else are you doing? So I know finance is a big one, right? So what kind of? You've always been innovative with not just with homes in general. So what kind of financing are you looking for, and what are you offering now?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess if you were to, maybe I'll take a step back and describe elevator, pitch of what EcoTribe does do.
Yeah.
Essentially, we're consultants that do bridge the gap between, well, let's say manufacturers, which is PV and battery, and also we do finance, distribution, and tax solutions. So those are some of the things. But answering your specific question that you asked, one of the innovative finance mechanisms is a green mortgage. So I know right now with rates being a little bit higher, most people aren't refinancing, but there's more debt now in the country than I don't know if it's ever in history, but definitely, more people are, having a need for debt. And if they could wipe out, there's many strategies. They could wipe out debt, wrap in renewables, pull it into a green mortgage, and their, out of their checking account each month would be lower. That's a strategy, right? So at least my solution to installers. So EcoTribe is going for installers and home builders, two different channels, but it's offering different solutions. So I call them little spider webs. So as I'm talking to a builder or or an installer, I might talk about 6 different products. It's not that I'm trying to be everything to everybody, but each person has a different need. So it's figuring out what the need is. So I'll talk to one builder or one installer and they'll say, hey, let's talk about that green mortgage, or, hey, let's talk about, the reference you made earlier of incentives going away. Yes, there's other ways to go about the, tax strategies. If somebody commercializes the tax credit, the commercial credit hasn't gone away. So
Right.
there are ways even for residential homes to still do non-TPO, and they still can receive credits through other types of services. So that's some of what we're trying to be is, bridge the gap with, the chaos that's out there and be more of a consultative educational approach and, try to add value that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's really important now, especially as everyone kind of, I don't know about you, but it's like, and I think people young in their solar career, they always think that it's the end of the day, it's the end of the world. Like but we've already been through this. There's already been a time where the tax credit was going to step down. That there would
Yeah.
a couple times, right? There was a time where there wasn't even tax credits at all, and solar was still being sold. Right. And I think one thing that I'm hopeful for is that this is going to remove that, solar bro from the equation, being able to gouge the consumer. Right. And it's really solutions like you're talking about that are going to make people think bigger about, this whole ecosystem that they're trying to create, the stability, the long term viability, the grid independence that is why they're picking the installer of tomorrow. Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with all of that. I remember some of what you're describing is I remember some of the, I guess using your analogy of the roller coasters, right? You've got the NEM 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, right? Now the one big beautiful bill, right? These are all different, ups and downs in the industry. And some things are becoming more constant of, batteries, administration and other things are not fighting batteries like they are some of the other, other things like wind and PV. But those are some of the staples that I feel are what to align with as, batteries truly are part of the wave of the future for renewables, right? But you're right that the industry's not dead. People might say that it's different. It is a lot to understand, and it's very, from procurement to other things, there's challenges for sure. But that's again where I feel we've got a gap that we're trying to provide to the industry.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I'm recommending to dealers is like, let's not even talk about the tax credit. Let's not talk about the net metering. Oh, you missed it. No, we both know a lot of people don't even know that there was tax credits. It's like the quantum observer effect. Like they weren't even interested. They have no idea about anything, and now they're finally looking because the utilities are going so high. The weather instability is so great, there's so much fear out there that now they're looking at, and it's like, don't even tell them what they missed, right? And those old solar sales guys who are used to just looking at this big savings, well, solar's good enough, and you don't need it. It can sell itself. You don't need to
Yeah.
have the same ROI factor, right? And what else? And really, if they're not buying it from you, they're going to buy it from someone else. So even if you think it's too small or you think it's not worth the drive, be that person who's going to speak to the consumer and really provide them with the options that they have, and because every lead now is like got to be treated like gold.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. I think to your point, I guess you used the reference of bros. But I think it is more of a consultative approach. Maybe that's less needed if it's solely a TPO and that's the only thing an installer's offering. It's a little bit easier of a discussion, and that's less turbulent right now, which is fine. But each installer has their own preference of what they want to offer, right? That's the beauty of the industry. But I do feel, to your point, that those that are looking at other services, it is more consultative. Maybe there's other things that need to be sold to make the same type of money that maybe used to be there, but that's where the industry needs to go. If we look at other countries like in Australia or other things, that our cost currently is still way too high. That's all part of what the one big beautiful bill is to change some of the behavior, and those that adapt will still survive and even hopefully thrive.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just almost like when with same thing with I was at the eye doctor the other day and we were talking. I gave my doctor like my second book, right, his first collection, and
Nice.
we started talking about. He's like, "Oh, it's the same thing with, medical industry. Like if there wasn't this insurance, it'd be a lot cheaper, right? Like glasses, as a for instance, there's so much markup in them because of the insurance covering them. If there wasn't this insurance and it was private, then they'd be much cheaper, right? Lenses and all that would be way, way not hundreds of dollars, but it's all the game that we're playing, right? And one hand feeds the other. So what do you think that solar companies of today are doing? Like, what's the biggest thing that you're seeing that they do when they do wrong, something wrong? Like, what do you see as like a common fail for some solar companies to be on the lookout for?
Good question. I guess I haven't thought about it that way of doing something wrong. I think I think what we were discussing earlier, the industry just is changing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I was on a call, literally the call I was on before this was a call with procurement related to, equipment pricing, just on pricing surging, especially if something's needed of domestic or FIOC or whatever it is, right? Things are just very, very different, but, I think the installer truly needs to figure out um, what their identity is, or again, like we talked about, spreading out what their solutions need to look like, just so they can offer more things to those customers to add value. But I don't know if I answered that one very well, but
I think you're right, and I think for me, if for anyone who's listening, or if they're not my clients, that they've already heard this, but you must track, right? You have to really, in order for you to be successful in 2026. We've always known, me and you've always known, like, but not everyone else has always been as judicious about, like, okay, what are they spending on a lead? What is their conversion rate? I see a lot of waste in just parking leads. Sales guys get like, oh, like chipmunks, and they're just like, these are my leads, and these are my opportunities. And then they don't work them the way they should work them. Or just because someone said, maybe, they said no to the solar, doesn't mean they would say no to a generator. Right. And just
Yep.
creating this training and really sitting down and saying, okay, hey, I think a lot of sales companies today, they're afraid of, like, oh, they're beholden to their sales guys. Like, oh, and they let them do whatever they want. Right. But that's, I think, not the answer for the future. It's like, as a company, you need to be able to use automation. You have to be able to, it's not like, oh, the sales guys want to do what they want. Well, okay, but that's, I think, not a way to succeed in the competitiveness of what's going to happen this year.
yeah, no, I think so. I think to your point of, I guess you asked the question that I didn't answer really well, of what someone's doing wrong. I think in the past, it was just far easier to make money in the
Yeah.
industry. And now when you say automations, I was at a different meeting earlier today talking about the blessings was the term used of AI, of just how you can truly enhance your business, enhance your processes, using AI. And I agreed with that person that, setting up some of those things, not necessarily to replace people specifically for a role, but truly augment and enhance, the productivity of every single person, so automation and,
Yeah.
what I reference as AI.
Yeah, I think that, and it's really, if we think about it as like a sidekick. And then one thing that I've been waiting for, I don't know if you have anyone who's doing it yet, but I can see the writing on the wall that I've been wanting, especially with my solar calculator and some of the things we learned in SunPower on the customer's journey, right? Like, everyone wants to save money, but what else? There's more to it than that, right? There's a lifestyle. Like, where are they in their milestone? Like, what are they? Do they have kids? What is it, right? That's really motivating them at a deeper level, right? Beyond the money. And what I like to see is, AI, with AI's help, really being able to do this matchmaking. Like, if someone uses this solar calculator tools, for instance, or they're looking at certain content and they get matched with this sales guy, and he, now we're analyzing the communication. Maybe he's an older guy and they're younger and he wants to call, they want to text. I mean, just all these different, matchmaking, but really being able to say, oh, we know right away that this is who you are, and let's match you with someone who is of the same communication style. You're both veterans. You're both, you know what I'm talking about, like, to really create a better experience for everyone, so everyone's more comfortable, and being able to, like, do it in real time, I think, is going to be where we can really change some of the sales tactics.
No, I agree with you. I guess answering your question directly of what I'm seeing, in
Yeah.
fact, I'll reference one of my earlier meetings that relate directly to what you're saying of, one of the meetings I was on, it wasn't, well, solar was a part of it, but it was truly homes, of how you could buy a home, more of a, what I'll call a Tesla style, where you're not, directly interacting with somebody, where you could do it all through technology. Now these were, backyard type homes, a little bit, different.
Like an ADU kind of thing, or?
Yeah, so that's exactly what they
Yeah.
they they are, is ADUs or workforce housing, those type of things where people can place orders. But it was quite literally, some people don't want to, you know, interact more kneecap to kneecap, you know, others, yes. So when you're saying, hey, let's match up this style with somebody, I think there are going to be more platforms where that is how things are going to be more transacted. In this other group I was with, they were talking about how, just how the future is anticipated to look from, shipping with drones and getting things delivered. Just the world will just look differently. And it's coming before our eyes. And I think that's, directly relates to the solar industry and your comment of, automation and different things that way. That is all part of the business. We need to be smarter, um, you know, as the industry is just changing.
Yeah, and say yes more, I think. It's like we've always been kind of trained to be like, oh, we don't do that. Oh, you have a warranty problem, you got to call manufacturer. Oh, oh no, we don't, and being more like, let's say yes instead, because they're looking for a partner, this like a full home solution, like the Walmart kind of like that's kind of what this green mortgage is, right? It's like you're gonna wrap it up,
Yeah.
you're looking at everything, the windows, you're looking at the ventilation, you're looking at like attic, I mean all kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
That's part of that. And that's really how you're getting that lower price. And just
Yeah.
what kind of education we can have out there on making people more comfortable. It seems like a lot, but at the end of the day, that's really what they want is this long-term partner.
Yeah. Maybe I'll tell a quick story to,
Yeah, do it.
answer what you were just, or describe a different, lens of what you're describing there. So I'll use my own home as an example. So bought an existing home where I'm in today. I said, I want solar and I need a new roof. So part of that mortgage that you were describing, you'd reference windows. That was not a example of my own home, but so I did have, purchased the home. Funds were set aside in escrow for the roof and for solar. I move in, close, roof gets up, solar gets up. Never once did I have a loan payment anywhere. It was all wrapped into a 30-year loan, and it's just all part of my all part of my mortgage that I pay. No lien, no UCC one, none of that. It was just all wrapped in to a green mortgage that had a little lower rate. So that's a good example of maybe a green mortgage.
Yeah, I think especially now, like as we start not having tax credit, it's like
Yeah.
people are going to be looking for more of those opportunities to create the stability. Or what are your thoughts? I mean, do you think that there's still without the credits, are you recommending kind of like more like you're still doing you're leaning toward green over like a lease? I mean, just
Yeah, I guess there's personal preference, and clearly I have my own personal bias of what I feel, is good, and clearly you've got how do you run a business? I think some of what you were alluding to, and I agree, it's education is one of the largest challenges from a homeowner perspective, and to solar companies. When you say, "Hey, how is somebody getting things wrong?" I think it's just understanding what solutions might be. Some groups might say, "Hey, I don't want complexity. I need to stay very narrow." That might not be bad. That might be their strategy, right? Of saying,
right,
we're just doing PPAs and that is what we do. And that, I know you said say yes to more. Other people, maybe that is the strategy. Say yes
right.
more and have different solutions. Others, no, say no. And this is all we're offering and we know what we want, but that's to each company to come up with, what is our strategy, and how do we want to go to market. Clearly what I am personally doing with my business is saying, hey, let me expand and offer different solutions and see what, each person I talk to might want something different, but we can, help them find, what they want.
That's what they want to be when they grow up, right? I think you're right. Like you want to say yes to everything, but it's also like, well, what is the future going to look like? And I mean, I had a client, right, an older client, and they like they didn't want to, they don't want to sell batteries. It's like, okay, well, just because you don't want to sell it doesn't mean that it's not the right thing for the consumer, though.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's kind of like for those people who are going to get into the industry, people who are new, they're babies out there, solar babies. What are your recommendation to them? Do you have any thoughts for, is this an industry you would still, if you were going to get in today, would you still get in today? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, no, a great question. I think yes, if it's somebody brand new getting in, I think it is you know, just research and figure out exactly what you want to do and have little wins and step into it. But absolutely I think it's still a new industry, right? I know it will just take time, it will evolve, but if somebody truly jumps in and figure out which lane you want to go down or have multiple, but I think it's a great industry. It's just different. And maybe now is better to jump into, having different options, right? I think just people look at it different, but it is just different than, some of the time frame we were working together, right? 5-6 years ago, just as different, of course.
When we realized that nothing lasts forever, like the SunPower, we thought it'd be forever. I mean, like
I know.
and then the Sonova and with one thing after another. But I'll say one thing is, if you're looking, I mean, we know that what goes down gonna go back up, and there's still less than 5% of all rooftops in America with solar on. So I mean, you're right. This is a growing industry. The ones that are going to ride this storm are going to be, triple Xing in 5 to 6 years, is my feeling. And if you want something a little safer, if you are new, roofs, I think you really nailed it, because when a roof's leaking or no one's going to be like, oh, I'll think about it, right? No, they need that new roof now.
Yeah.
And whereas solar's kind of like, oh, well, maybe let me get back to you. It's not like it's, the homeowner's insurance is mandating it. It's a serious danger, or it's like leaking all over your house kind of thing, right?
Well, no, I agree with that. If you don't mind, maybe I'll describe something I see for the future. So, you're right on the solar side. I mentioned, batteries are the wave of the future. And I think that's the center point for many groups. For my company, it is specifically of having, building things around an ecosystem that, battery solves. But the other things I see for the future, specifically, I'll be helping a company release a product that's called a hydroelectric generator, meaning you got water coming in through the city, like your home, like my home. Water comes through, it spins a turbine. That's what generates electricity that then goes into the inverter and then batteries. So it could either replace solar or just augment solar, right? It could be, you've got somebody that's got a 10 kW system, but they need more power because now they've got a car and a hot tub that uses electricity, and they've maxed out their roof. Rather than take it down and throw on a new one with, instead of 300 watt, now they're going to, 410s, 440s, use a different thing that generates electricity. So I'm super excited of some of the products that we're helping bring to market that I truly feel will change the world. I know that sounds...
That is, I got chills thinking about that. I can't wait to learn more about that one.
Yeah, no, I'd love to explain more about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, my platform's LinkedIn. I haven't posted as much, recently, but that's where people can find me. If they just look up, Blake Gailey on LinkedIn, they'll find me there, and I'll probably start posting a little bit more specifically to different products that we're aligning with, and we'll probably do different webinars and things like that. But that's probably where people that would follow me would find me. But that's best, LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, so if everyone is listening, that we have those links right here in the channel, and Blake will definitely be back with some of these exciting things he's talked about to share more about hydroelectric and other of his partnerships with. We have there's other solar canopies that are exciting, right? With Arca and some other products I'm excited for you to share when you get a little deeper into them.
I look forward to it and look forward to coming back on here, and truly appreciate your time.
Thanks so much. And for all of my listeners, please join me next week as I interview another industry expert to help you ride the ride of the solar coaster. Thank you so much. We've just reached over 35,000 subscribers, and that's because of you and your aloha. So please subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends and family so I can get more great guests like Blake to talk shop with us here every week. I will see you next week in the Pixels. Aloha.
Hop on the solar coaster, come along for the ride.